Oh man, I am tired today. So, oh man, this thing jiggles way too much. Anyways, I believe last time we talked about the church in Africa. I thought I would share a little bit more about Africa because I got a lot of memories from there, but they are like discombobulated, disjointed, not really based on any timeline. However, I like to try to focus on the major incidents that kind of happened, like what we talked about in Egypt and my parents getting arrested. So one of the main things that happened while we were living in Ivory Coast was there was a huge, I think it was a civil war. I'm not sure. I could go back and look up the years and everything. I know that there was tons of rioting going on, that it was dealing with anti-government issues. People were fed up. I don't remember why. I just remember that there were tons of riots going on in the streets, that there were major like mass exiting of a lot of expats leaving the country. I remember, so I was going to a private school in Africa. It was always interesting because it was in French. I had to wear a uniform. It was like this brown uniform that was like brown shorts and a brown button-up shirt. And I remember the building. I remember our courtyard. It was quite interesting. I remember that there was a guard at the gate, which was normal throughout the time. But then during the rioting and everything, I remember our housekeeper, we had a guy who was our housekeeper who helped out. My parents sent him to pick us up. And from that moment on, there was like this change where the rioting it wasn't just like a day. It took a while. Like it was, I mean, it felt like a really long time as a kid. I'm sure it might have only been like a week or so. But either way, what ended up happening was the school didn't want to stop having classes. A lot of schools had closed down, but a lot of the parents of this private school wanted to continue having classes. But the location of our school was in a place where they didn't feel comfortable. So it's interesting to see how a private, non-Christian school, the parents got together and decided to basically house the school. So every day we would be at a different location, and each time it was one of the houses of one of the parents from the school. And so for me as a kid, it was quite an interesting and fun time because like we still had our regular classes, and then we still had like recess and PE. And during recess, it was fun because here we are at one of the houses of one of my fellow students. And so we got to play with their toys, we got to see their house, we got to play in their yard, which was way more fun than being at our old school building. And so that's what I remember, but at the same time, I know that the situation wasn't necessarily a good one in the sense that the reason we were having to do that was quite dangerous. I want to go off on a slight tangent here on an aspect that is important to me as a missionary kid, and something that I both want, at the same time fear for my family, and at the same time have strong opinions of people who don't ever get even the opportunity, let alone chance to experience this. Living in a country like America where everything for the most part is fine. Okay, now, let me give a small disclaimer. There are tons of tragic things that happen in America. School shootings, major crime, like there are a lot of things that are not good and dangerous. So please don't feel like I'm disqualifying those. But I guess in comparison to me personally, the aspect of having a nationwide tragedy or trauma or crisis that affects you and that affects a family, and deciding to take your family to a place where that is more likely to happen. We don't have as many nationwide tragedies or crises in the US. I know many people would argue with me on that, but that's not the point. What I'm trying to say is the choice to take your family to a place where there's a more likelihood of a nationwide crisis, and how you would deal with that, the choice of staying in that country when you have the opportunity to leave and go back to a slightly, if not more, safer location such as the US. I want my family to know what life is like. I want them to I want them to know what life is like abroad in the rest of the world. I want them to understand the day-to-day struggles that families face when dealing with a nationwide crisis without the opportunity to leave. I want them to experience the opportunity of choosing to stay to help in a country that's facing nationwide crisis when you have the opportunity to leave. I want them to know what that means. To me, again, going back to what a missionary is, that is a huge aspect of what it means to be a missionary, to make the choice to stay in an unsafe location, let alone with a family, in order to serve, love, and care for a people group who are not your own. Those deeper aspects of being a missionary to me are why choosing to move in the States and be a missionary in the States to another part of the U.S., although still valid, is different because of choices that other missionaries have to make like that in foreign countries. I want to keep these somewhat short, so I'll end there. We probably will still be talking about Africa for a little while. I still have more different thoughts and ideas, slightly less as big as a nationwide crisis, but things that definitely play into what it means to be a missionary, and especially a missionary kid. So we'll talk to you tomorrow.